Okay. Next, this video is about power purchase agreements, the PPA. Is a very important contract. Like in real, not just real estate. This one is like real infrastructure, crazy, like next level part of commercial real estate. Power purchase agreement. I'm going to make so many videos on this power purchase agreement, but this is going to be my first video on power purchase agreement. It's a long-term contract between the owner of an electricity generating station, that's the seller, and a buyer, the off-taker, like a utility company like Starbucks or a KFC or a bank, or a large company. Any large company can be like the buyer of electricity. So I was tracking, and currently it's actually shut down till 2027 next year because of like so many. I think I'll get straight to that, but like let's take a coal plant like Sandy Creek. Sandy Creek is a coal plant in Texas. I was tracking a coal plant for an investor that wanted to buy this coal plant. So if you were to buy a coal plant like Sandy Creek, the PPA, that power purchase agreement, will serve three primary purchases for you as the owner. The first purpose is a guaranteed income, bankability. If you have the PPA, let me just conclude. If you have the PPA, the bank will loan you any amount, like any amount you want. If you have um Starbucks have actually agreed to pay you a PPA, you have like Zenith Bank has agreed for you to actually supply them electricity, and they give you, like, they will sign the agreement, the PPA agreement. Any bank can loan you any amount of money to build your power grid and establish it. That's a guaranteed income. The PPA is the plant's main source of revenue. There are other agreements that are very important for a power like for a power generating plant, but like the PPA is the money. There's another one called IA that actually connects to the power grids, like the ones that like regulate how much power you're actually releasing to the transformers. But like we're talking about the PPS for now. So the second primary purpose is risk protection. There's a market risk price. Electricity prices in markets like Texas can swing wildly. So the PPA locks in a price for 10 to 25 years, shielding you from these fluctuations. That's like if a corporate buyer, like a utility buyer, like let's say Starbucks. I don't know why I like using Starbucks or like Bank of America. You know, if they actually sign an agreement that they will be collecting electricity from your power plant, like they sign a PPA agreement, it is locked that they will pay this a certain amount of they will pay a certain amount. So even if the price fluctuates up and down, the general public can be suffering that one, but them now they have a personal agreement, like that power purchase agreement that is fixed. So you actually protect the utility guys from any fluctuations, that kind of stuff now. And there's a risk protection, then there's a demand risk. It shifts the usage risk to the buyer, that kind of stuff. So you don't have to worry about whether people actually need electricity on a given day. As long as your power plant is operational, you must get paid. That is fact. Like you have to just get paid. So like define rules for operation. The PP agreements clearly states who is responsible for what, such as fuel costs, maintenance, and penalties if the plant breaks down. It often includes pass-through mechanisms where unpredictable costs like changes in environmental laws or fuel price spikes can be passed on to the buyer so they don't eat into your profits. So I think I'm going to, like, first of all explain like the difference between physical PPAs and virtual PPAs, because I didn't even know before now that there were something like physical PPAs and virtual PPAs. So if I was to buy a coal-fired power station like Sandy Creek, I keep going back to Sandy Creek, even though Sandy Creek right now is a distressed asset, like it's closed till like 2027. The power purchase agreement, the PPA, will be the most critical financial and operational asset. So like there are two types, physical and virtual PPAs. Basically, while both of them serve as like long-term contracts, they define how electricity and money move. The physical PPA, the buyer typically is like a utility or retail provider, that is Starbucks, Shoprite, any bank. They are the buyers. They take actual delivery of the electricity from the plant at a specific point on the grid. So you now you're supplying the coal station now supplies power to it. You have to go through a grid before it actually circulates to like the retail providers, like the retail like utility companies and the big companies. So like this is a traditional model large base load plants like Sandy Creek, where the buyer needs the physical energy to supply their customers. But the virtual PPA, I think, is purely like a financial instrument or contract for difference. I don't really know how the virtual is. I need to actually do more research because I've never seen a physical PPA, how the agreement is. I'm just talking about it because I've been helping a developer, like an investor, try and buy a co-generating plant. So, I've been it's like a crazy kind of war. It's completely different from the multi-family and the retail assets I've been doing. So the virtual synthetic PPA is mostly like it's purely a financial instrument or like contract for difference, where you sell your power into the open market at a current spot price. If that spot price is lower than the price agreed in the PPA, the strike price, the buyer pays the difference. If the price is higher, you pay the buyer the difference. So that kind of sense. So this allows the buyer, like a tech company now, to hedge their energy cost even if they aren't physically located near your plant. So I think I like the virtual one. But let's see, I don't know. Um, there is the penalties for underperformance. Since your buyer relies on the plants to be available, the PPA now includes liquidated damages, that is pre-agreed penalties to protect them if they fail to perform. So like availability, your income is tied to an availability factor. Being ready to run 85% of the year. Your power station has to run 85% of the year because they're literally supplying electricity to like retail guys. And if you stop, the PPA agreement now starts getting into trouble. That's what the bank is watching. That's what the bank is handling as collateral. That PPA agreement is what the bank will use and give you whatever loan you want, whether it's 500 million to build your power grid, $500 million. The bank gives you your loan as long as you have that PPA agreement. That, oh, you have like AAA plus companies now that want to be like retail providers. So if your plant breaks down too often and your availability drops below this target, your availability charge, that fixed payment, is reduced proportionally. Heat rate penalties. Coal plants are measured on efficiency, how much coal it takes to produce a kilowatt per hour. If your plant becomes less efficient than promised, you may be penalized because you're using more fuel than the contract allows for the amount of power. Unscheduled shutdowns, like high demand periods like Texas heat wave, like Texas, can trigger heavy fines, as the buyer may have to buy expensive replacement power from this. So this is all like handling price fluctuations, but this video is about PPA. Like, and so most coal PPAs are pass-through agreements. This means the buyer pays the actual cost of the coal you burn plus the fee. If the price of coal doubles, your revenue increases to cover it, shifting the fuel price. So that's actually a good one. So if it's indirect, direct pass-through, the fuel price is often indexed to a market benchmark. The price you get paid for energy adjusts automatically based on that index. So I think there was a part I was like trying to understand. Every other part is ERCOT is like Nigerian power grid or something like that. Kind of like they're like the stock market for energy guys. I don't really know about Nigeria. I don't really care about Nigeria. I swear, nothing about Nigeria. So in this whole place here is how they calculate the debt service coverage ratio in like the DSCR. That is like I'll do that one like in the next video. Um, so what was actually going through here was how the connection, like the relationship between a bank, the power grid, the retail guys, the retail buyers, and uh, okay, there's also another part here. Like if I want to take into account like my background, like there's Nigeria bulk electricity trading structures, power purchase agreements for plants like Azura Edo. Or so there's in the energy world there are two clauses that protect you from things you cannot control, but they trigger different cures. So like there are things you cannot control normally that may spoil your power plants, they may destroy your power plant and everything. And there are two things, like two clauses that protect you from this act of nature. One is the act of God, force major FM. Like this one covers events that make it physically impossible to operate. Example, a massive hurricane hitting the Texas coast, a terrorist attack on the grid, or a national strike. Like a nationwide NLC strike in Nigeria, like this useless country that prevents coal deliveries. So results is like usually both parties are excused from their duties. You don't have to like provide power, and the buyer doesn't have to pay you. But importantly, you are penalized for the outage. There's another one that is changing law. That one is actually out of government. The other one is out of God. This one is out of government. And this one covers events that make it legally or financially impossible to operate as originally agreed. The US government now suddenly banning coal power, or Texas imposing a new $50 per ton carbon tax, that kind of thing. That kind of thing now can result in the plants now still physically capable of running, but the CL clause now usually forces the buyer to increase the price they pay you, so your profit stays the same despite the new law. You hear that one well? The buyer increases the price they pay you, so your profit stays the same despite the new law. So if they increase the law, you increase your price. um, yeah, like um. So another one I have here is like let's go. Use of energy. The Bank of America now is like the financier. The bank is the financier. Starbucks, Shoprite, KFC are the guarantors with the PPA. If those guys now agree to agree to the power purchase agreements, the bank will lend you any amount of money you want. I've said it before. And someone like Shell now is like let's say another energy company now that has like this kind of fuel infrastructure that handles the hustling of connecting your power grid now to a power station like power grid, something like that. You guys are confusing me. So basically, how this web connects now is like this. The PPA now, the power purchase agreement, is the foundation of everything. Large corporations like Starbucks or Shoprite or like any of their US equivalent ones now, they want two things: price stability and green credentials. That is, even though, and I think I'm using Sandy Creek, but like Sandy Creek is cool. Many plants now use virtual PPA, so it offsets all those costs. So like this connection now is like these companies now they sign a PPA agreement, like okay, power purchase agreements, not PPA. PPA is already power purchase agreement. They sign a PPA now agreeing to buy power at a fixed price for 15 years, like fixed price. It doesn't change like their price. They just buy a fixed price now. Um that's the confirmation that the bank needs now to know, okay, you guys have buyers, you guys have people that are interested. Unless it's just a museum, your power plant is just useless. Like no buyers. What are you doing now? That's not a business. They are just building a museum. So like that promise now to pay is the most valuable thing the power plant owns. More valuable than the turbines themselves. The turbines are not important. It's the agreements that, and and one thing I not mentioned from the beginning of the video is like in energy, in infrastructure, everything is contract. You are just holding. People are just the investors are just like having a stake in contracts, like power purchase agreements, IA, legal contracts, like bank, like everything is just contracts in this power purchase agreements, that kind of stuff. So if you're investing in a power grid now, you're investing in a power purchase agreement, that kind of stuff. You're investing in like an IA, that kind of stuff. Like from the amount of money Starbucks pays pays in as like for electricity, that is the profit now is what you're investing in. That PPA is what you're investing as an investor. So the step two now is the Bank of America. That's the engine of Bank of America. Does not care about coal. They don't care about coal. They care about the PPA. They care about the agreements that people are interested in, buying electricity from you. They don't care about coal. They don't care about turbines. They don't. That agreement is everything you need to go to the bank, and then they give you like the senior debt or the mezzanine debt, and you can build your capital stuff from there. I feel like my former video I think it's this video. I don't even know now. It was talking about like the PPA agreement and like the capital stack. So basically, if you have the PPA, bro, if you have a PPA now, like from um, let me say your brother still not Shoprite, or you control Shoprite, and you have another family member that has Bank of America, and these two guys say they have agreed to buy electricity from you if you actually build a power plant. Bro, if you carry out power purchase agreements to the bank will lend you any amount of money you want. You go and build your own power plant and then supply electricity to the whole state. So it's like, it's not that simple actually, but like, you know, that's like the whole. So like, the connection is like, because someone like a company like Starbucks now is an AAA rated company. So if Starbucks now has agreed to pay for that power, you know, Bank of America now feels safe lending $500 million to Sandy Creek, you know, that kind of stuff. So the bank now uses the PPA as collateral. Without that contract, the bank will never give you the money to build or buy the plant. So that contract is everything, bro. It's just everything. So they're pretty like Shoprite and Starbucks, like they are actually called the off-takers in Nigeria. Think of how Shoprite in a mall needs 24/7 power to keep the freezers running. So in the US now, big retailers often act as the off-taker. Those guys are called off-takers. They're the ones that buy the electricity. So by signing the PPA now, they lock in their electricity cost. If the price of power in Texas triples during a heat wave, the price is still the same because you don't agree 10 years ago say the price of electricity is, let's say, $50 per kilowatt per hour. So like the price is still the same if the heat wave actually goes higher. So Shoprite's costs stay the same because of their contract to the plants. They get budget certainty. Like for every year now, they know this is how much we're going to spend on electricity. They know that one. So and the plant now gets guaranteed revenue. So everybody wins, as except maybe after you now pay that stuff now, the heat wave now is very, very hot, and it's like for the next 10 years, like the price of electricity has quadrupled. So now that one the plants may get like predictable guaranteed revenue, but you know, like Starbucks is paying like times is less than 4 of the price, the current price, because they actually agreed before the price quadrupled. So apart from those kind of situations, but yeah. So like when someone like Shell, like a kind of infrastructure, a company like Shell comes in now, it's like Shell will now provide the input. So let's say like I think Sandy Creek. I know Sandy Creek is actually cool. I should have used someone that is more, while Sandy Creek is cool, Shell is a massive player in the natural gas and energy solution space. Basically, Shell, the connection is that Shell acts as the fuel manager or like the market trader. They might be the ones now moving the fuel to the plant, or they might be the middleman that is the QS in airports. Airports is like like I said, like the market trading for all these power grids and electric guys, like the guys that sell electricity. So they take that power now from Sandy Creek and sell it to the grid, so it can reach the Bank of America office or Starbucks shop, that kind of stuff. So basically, the full picture now, the full picture lens. Now, if you're looking at it like you're looking at it like a Nigerian investor. Here is your eureka moment. The assets now, like the plant now that produces electricity, Sandy Creek now, the cool one, is just a physical excuse to create a financial product, which is that agreement, that PPA. Whether it's a physical one or a virtual one, that a bank now can lend against. You know what I'm saying? So I took like 18 minutes to just explain the full picture. So the Bank of America provides the debt. You and the owner provide equity, capital stock. Remember the capital stock? You provide equity, the common equity. You find your partners that provide the preferred equity, and then the bank provides the senior debt. And I don't know, any other bigger institution can provide the mezzanine debt, because this one is a big project. Some of them can be up to $1 billion, like to build this kind of stuff. Like the Sandy Creek project I was tracking was like, they built it. I think they spent like $1.3 billion to build that project, but now they have reduced the value of the project to like 230 something million. I gave a very terrible project to my investor. I gave a very horrible project. It's just now, I think it's just every day I'm going back to research it. I'm like realizing, I gave this guy very, very terrible stuff. So next time I have to come back with something like gold. So, but I've learned. I think I've learned some stuff.